now's the time. All of this is, in my mind, coming together to say it's our turn, and we can't afford to wait. Now's the time. When I started here as superintendent, we thought about what are the things that kids are going to need in the 21st century. And we produce what we call the Portrait of a Graduate, which is all about what are the skills, mindsets, and dispositions that kids are going to need to be competitive in this new era. And so the last 2 years, we've been working very diligently on that. But at the same time that the teaching and learning is coming up to 21st century standard, we need a 21st century building. Our buildings have an average age of 67.8 years old. They have outlived their usefulness in many ways, and so what we're proposing now is a 21st century educational space for Belpre City Schools for our students and to prepare them to enter into the workforce. So think about the needs of a 20th century learner. In many ways, the ways that we design schools were for factories. Kids in rows, bells that rang to tell students when to go from point A to point B, a lot of structure. And the reality is that's not the economy that students are entering into. We know that 60 to 70% of jobs are going to be service-based. And to be a service-based employee, you need different skill sets in that. It's not about being told where to be and what to do. You have to be able to improvise and provide a level of customer care, of communication, of empathy. And so the structure and systems in a school have to match that. And so from a facility standpoint, we have to make sure that we have more collaborative space in our buildings, opportunities for students to get up, move around, and interact with their peers.
We are really launching an initiative with all of our teachers to work on project-based learning to get the students, out of the desk, out of that textbook and paper kind of mode, into more collaborative and active learning. Yet we are constrained by classrooms that are quite small. In the hallways, the way this is all set up, it's just really difficult. The sound is wrong, so a little voice carries and disturbs other people when they're trying to do what they're doing in their classroom. So it's not like you can bring your groups out into the hallway and get much done. And then the classrooms themselves really aren't conducive to classes of 25 or more students trying to do some active learning.
I hear from a lot of bosses now that some of even our best and brightest that leave aren't good at collaborating, and they aren't good at working together as a team. And they're telling me that's the whole game right now. The whole game is my ability not to regurgitate what I know, but to use what I know in a team to solve a problem. And so if that's what we want, our buildings have to look dramatically different, because it's not about sitting in rows and moving when the bell rings. It's about becoming self-reliant, becoming a communicator, a problem solver, and putting all of this stuff together. And that's what we need.
The problems we run into most here are a couple different things. So one is reutilization of space. Schools provide a lot more services and things nowadays that were not foreseen when all of these schools were built, 60 years ago. So anytime we need new space or additional space, we frequently find ourselves trying to transform an old space into something else. So a great example would be our football locker room, which was an old wood shop. There are no showers in here. There is barely any running water. We have a sink over there, but it's just an old wood shop, repurposed as best they could. So they did a good job. Another primary problem, we have a lot of aging infrastructure and finishes, which are expensive to renovate. So this is our foundational issues. The school back here was built on a sand pit, from what I've been told. So it's just normal settling over the years, but it's starting to create quite a problem that we're going to have to sink some money into before too long. This old system used to run off of coal. This is the old coal chute over here. It's been refitted. We use natural gas now. The way this old building works, there's constantly an airflow. So, for example, when it's cold out, it's constantly sucking cold air in and it's pushing hot air out. And you'll notice in the different classrooms, each of them have a chimney that is actually open to the outdoors. So if this giant fan in here shuts off, you can feel the cold air being sucked inwards. But it's just very inefficient is what I'm getting at, because you're constantly pumping hot air outdoors. We have a lot of asbestos in this flooring one way or another, all throughout the buildings. You know, it's not dangerous unless it's a broken tile and it becomes powderized and, you know, you're breathing it in, which does not happen. Its roofing is past end of life, out of warranty. We just need a new roof, essentially. There's a lot of small leaks where we've tried to re-caulk around the edges. We've tried to find the leaks. You just can't find them. There's no actual rips in the fabric up on the roof, but once it's kind of like a pool liner. It starts to shrink, that rubber in the material, so it starts to pull away slowly, and we think that's what's happening.
Let's say, if people say, well, why don't we just go ahead and renovate the schools as opposed to getting new schools?
So to even start, I mean, there's a whole host of problems. You could do that. It's just going to cost, you could almost have a new school for those same prices, only you're going to be stuck with renovated materials inside the same old walls and the same old footprint.
So the cost that the OFCC, which is the state, has told us is about $44 million. So at this point, the cost to renovate would exceed the cost that we would need to build new at $40 million plus the state share. The state's going to send. The state would not be able to send us any additional funds for renovation. But even if we could, it's the fundamental bones and structure of a building. The buildings, to their credit, were built in the old way. It's hard to move the way they were built. I can't flex walls. I can't push things apart because the structure of it is such a way that it's really not malleable in the way that we would need to have a dramatic change in the way that school classrooms are designed, office space is placed, and to get everything where it needed to be. It wouldn't be cost effective. It'll be a 160,000 square foot facility, all on the existing site of the high school campus. The idea then is to build first a 6 through 12 school with the shared space that any campus would need. Then we would demo the high school. We would move the kids into the new building. And then once that was done, we would start construction of what will be the new elementary on the present site of the high school. And once that's all complete, we would move the students down from the elementary and we would be under one roof. So from what I understand, the first phase, it'll take about a year to design. So if we pass the bond in May of this year, probably around June of next year, we'll have the plans in place and we'll be ready to break ground. And it will take about 2 years to complete the first phase.
Now is the right time because the state has offered a $22.3 million match on the project. And without that match, we would not be fiscally able to take on a project of this magnitude.
And so originally back in 2011, the amount of money that we would have gotten to match our project would have been maybe around 25%. And since 2011, until about the last year or two, that number has gotten better and better for Belpre. And so at this point, it's actually at about 44% that the state's going to kick in, as opposed to 25, significantly better.
Yeah, so the cost of the levy is based on the appraised valuation that the Washington County Auditor assigns to your property, not necessarily what you think your house could sell for or has sold for in the past. So that's an important distinction, that the appraised value is actually the amount that the Washington County Auditor has listed on their state local government website.
We love Belpre, we love our schools, and we really do our best in the space that we have, because what we're here for is to teach our students. But to translate that to the students and for the students to see that we are investing in them, sometimes it needs a little bit more than, our best wall decorations. And despite the amount of time that our teachers put in, there is just an element of pride and functional facility that is necessary for students to really take their education seriously and believe that they can compete in this world with others.
New facilities Obviously, there's a pride factor that goes into new facilities. I think for businesses and homeowners, they will naturally see a valuation increase.
I think it would be a game changer for our community in every way. I've served previously as a superintendent in a place where we got new buildings. I was blown away. I think our kids know what other communities have when they go and travel, and they understand what we have here. And I think it will give a boost of pride. I think the self-confidence will improve itself, and students will see that reflected in the facilities that's been provided for them. I think that the new buildings would be one that our communities will be proud of, and that will attract new residents. So we know that we have this new medical property coming into town, and where are those folks going to choose to live? If we don't take the opportunity to invest in our school and push it forward, they may not be able to choose Belpre as its preferred space. And so I'm really excited about it, and I think it's the right time to do it.